I just finished the book, The Strategically Small Church by Brandon J. O'Brien. It's a book written for ministers, and it has given me some food for thought. In it, the author cites the Hartford Institute for Religion's research, finding that 94% of all existing churches have less than 500 attendees, and 2/3 of these have less than 100. He names the reality that exists across so many traditions, including our own, that success is often equated with large, and large brings levels of excellence across many parts of church life, especially in worship and in the full range of programs and groups and social justice initiatives. I know that I can get caught in this myth because I've only been affiliated with large Unitarian Universalist churches prior to serving here. The author says there's this notion that small churches are failed churches and that they can only be successful if they follow a certain plan and grow to a certain size. Needless to say, he disputes that claim, saying, what if the best model for church is to stay under 500 people and even closer to the tipping point of 150? Throughout the book, he challenges the reader to beware of the trap of focusing on limitations and instead to celebrate what small churches have to offer. He says the single greatest problem with small churches is perception. Low attendance, small budgets, and limited staff are not in and of themselves problematic. What is problematic, he says, are the insecurities and defensiveness that result when we fail to live up to expectations of success established by just a handful of churches. He says you can do two things with expectations. You can meet them or you can change them. And he says, change them. He lifts up the agility and the authenticity of small congregations, how it's easier to form relationships, have access to leadership positions, and to respond to needs within and beyond the faith community. He made me smile when he noted, and I paraphrase here, that no one lifts up a church that goes from 75 members to 150 over 17 years. But the truth is that is often the path of congregational growth. So for this sermon, I was thinking about looking back over this past year since COVID's changed our lives as a congregation. There is a lot to remind myself or ourselves of when it comes to our response to the stay-at-home orders and our lives of being together, reduced to small computer screens and Zoom. Many of us only see a slice or two of the whole when it comes to knowing what's been happening this past year. More than once, somebody's remarked that they haven't seen someone all year, and I reply, oh, they're always at the coffee house, or they consistently come to mom's group or daily lunches, or the group for people who live alone, or book groups. Don't get me wrong. There are people we've not seen. All of them have had some outreach over the year, but truthfully, only time will tell if they'll return to a more full connection when we gather again in person. As I was going through reports which reminded me of behind the scene operational improvements, the work of the board and task force, of the land and facilities and personnel teams, of the technical support, and many congregants who have participated in Sunday service, I made a list of educational offerings and of the service work that we've done. But despite looking back and seeing many accomplishments and progress, it fell a bit flat for me. Maybe that is because we've been at COVID distancing for over a year, and sometimes it just feels hard to get excited about anything these days. Or maybe I was just looking in the wrong direction. Last night, I remembered to set my phone alarm for 6:25, which I sometimes forget on Saturdays, so I joined the MSUS coffee house. Chad has been hosting them consistently on Saturday nights, except for when we have storytelling nights once a month. The first coffee house was held on April 4th, 2020, and next Saturday, we will be one day shy of a 1-year anniversary. I've not been able to attend for a few weeks, so I was glad to be able to tune in. Here's what I found. There were 25 people online. That is a quarter of our congregation on a good day. There were 8 performances, ranging from Amy's piano piece that she learned when she was 12 years old. Jamie sang a serenade for special occasions in Spanish to honor Marie's birthday. Polly played her ukulele that she's been picking up more these days, and she sang Golden Slumber, which is the Beatles song that begins, "Once there was a way to get back home." John, tuning in from his basement studio, played a song he wrote about Oklahoma City, where he was from. Marie, in honor of Women's History Month, and accompanied by Bruce on the piano, sang Helen Reddy's "I Am Woman." Janice, who's always accompanied by her stuffed bear named Purple, read melodically the words to "You're My Best Friend," which came out in 1975. Jim has been on a roll with Jailhouse songs, and he sang a parody of the song "My Way." And we closed, as we always do, with a sing-along. Last night, it was Rainbow Connection, made famous by Kermit the Frog. Chad assembled a beautiful PowerPoint deck with the words, and we sung along like we do here, everyone muted, singing along at home while Bruce is playing and Marie is singing. You may or you may not know everyone who I spoke of, but I'm hoping that you can imagine the evening complete with laughter, an occasional pun, of course, applause, and joy. As I asked Polly about her regular contributions to the coffee houses this year, she told us that she enjoys singing from home. And she added, "I like the fact that you're all captive Unitarians and you have to love me." What's amazing about these coffee houses is that they are a great example of the culture at MSUS. Music is central to this congregation, not the music of perfection, but music that's open to all, symbolic of joy and vulnerability that spans across ages from 6-year-olds to those in their 70s. They also show how when a group of people from this congregation gather, they pay attention to the context of what's happening in the larger world, and they often respond to it at these coffee houses. They sometimes pick up our worship theme or something that came up in a service. The coffee houses aren't just a place of fun, but they're a place of community, meaning making, and reflections. Polly's calling out of Unitarian Universalism wasn't the only time our faith was mentioned last night, as Amy told us that she read a New York Times article that the Rainbow Connection had just been added to the National Registry. She spoke of a video where Kermit is interviewed by the Librarian of Congress, Carla Hayden. Amy commented on how Kermit and the person who wrote the song, Paul Williams, sound like UUs. When Miss Hayden points out that the line, "Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on a morning star," has been noted as central to that song, Paul Williams pops up on the video and he speaks of the mystery of faith. He says, when referring to that line, it's about the immense power of faith, faith in someone or something or a big idea. I didn't find any evidence of Paul being a UU, but he would certainly find kindred souls in our congregation. In a Vanity Fair interview, William muses maybe Rainbow Connection is a camouflaged hymn. He actually modeled the song after "When You Wish Upon a Star," which opened the movie Pinocchio. William says, "This is Kermit's I Am song. This song will show that Kermit has an inner life, a spiritual life. The thing that's so human about the song," he reflects, "is that it honors the questions, not the answers. That moment made Kermit not the mentor, not the teacher, not the preacher. He became a seeker with an audience." Well, okay, perhaps I wandered too far, but here's the deal. Singing that simple, beloved song and watching the video of Kermit singing it captured the spirit of MSUS for me. The song is sung in plain language to a tune that lulls us in. It is sprinkled with joy and awe and mystery. When I was speaking with the Jarvies yesterday at the outdoor gathering at Snail Lake, we were talking about our latest discussions with the architects. And I reflected, we don't need anything too swanky. We just need something simple, beautiful, functional, warm, accessible, and welcoming. Those words could also be used to describe Michael Servetus Unitarian Society. It's simple in that it doesn't have a lot of layers or complexity as an organization. And it's beautiful and warm and welcoming and accessible in spirit, though the building has some work to really match those words. It's been a heck of a year of big emotions, of fear and disbelief, of horror of what happened in Minneapolis at 38th and Chicago, and anticipation about what's next following the verdict of the trial surrounding the killing of George Floyd. We've been through an election cycle with a sigh of relief when the administration that reflects so many of our union values were voted in. We've had so many hours at home finding ways to stay hopeful and engaged while longing for the lives that we had to leave behind. This church, this community has been a lifeline for many of you over this past year. It's provided a place to celebrate and to mourn, to think and feel and question and learn and grow and come to know ourselves as seekers. There have been many days when to some degree we've saved one another, saved each other from plunging further into depression or from binging on news and media that keeps us awake at night. We've been able to weave together Sunday mornings along with music and small groups, adult education and theology conversations, postcard writings, food drives, and more. While other congregations move to pre-recorded or live stream services where congregants are more of an audience than participants, we've gone the other way. We've shortened sermons and added time for reflection. We've continued to practice joys and sorrows spoken by those who are impacted. And we found fellowship in small breakout groups following services that mimic that feeling about being around a small table in the social hall. We've come together to tell stories of our lives, sing songs that matter, and share poetry on Christmas morning. We are so far from a perfect institution. I can look back and lament all that has not happened and what we've missed this year. My heart breaks when I focus on beloveds in our congregation who become less connected or moved away from the congregation. But to focus on the story of limitations breeds insecurity and defensiveness that can stifle the image of our shared future and what we have yet to become. As we begin this year's pledge drive, it's good to remember what and who we are. It's good to look back at this year and take stock of what was, what is, and what will be. To consider how it may have served your spirit and helped you feel more connected. My hope is that this very strange year has fueled your inner life and your spiritual life. I look forward to continuing on this path of being seekers together. May it be so, and amen. I think we may have time for just a few comments. I'm just curious about folks reflecting on this year and what might have helped you lean into this community, what might have saved you, what you may have gleaned out of this time where we've been forced to be apart. Kathy can tell you to speak if you want to raise your hand or unmute. Are you going to be a shy congregation?
Okay, I see Ollie. Go ahead and unmute. Go ahead, Ollie.
There. Sorry. I've really enjoyed the connection that I can have with people, being able to actually hear them on Zoom as opposed to being in the fellowship hall where for me it's impossible to hear. I cannot carry on a conversation there. So I've enjoyed this a lot.
Thank you, Ali. And thank you for the reminder of how challenging our space is.
Janice?
I'm Janice, and as a permanent greeter, I appreciate not having to get up so early for the 9 o'clock services and actually drive over to MSUS and be fully awake and present in the moment. Now I can eat my breakfast on Sundays at 10:15, leisurely sit in front of the screen, you know, block my video if I need to, not have to worry about going out into the cold, gray, rainy Sunday mornings.
I can see you're a potential hybrid human being there.
Marie?
I just want to say this year has been a very growing year for me. I've learned a lot about myself. I'm having a hard time even talking because this whole service has been so meaningful to me. I think I saw a few other people wiping their eyes and stuff, but I've learned a lot really about community, and I am just so fortunate to be a part of MSUS. People here are just amazing, and thank you so much all for being here, for all of us.
Thank you, Marie.
And Pamela writes in the chat, I have felt amazed and thankful that people here who barely know me have expressed welcome and care, support, and encouragement for me. What a truly wonderful community we are. I also appreciate not getting up earlier and going anywhere. Though I miss the physical connection, I am not a morning person.
It looks like Jamie and Roger may have their hand raised, and then we'll move on after
And
them.
Beth.
Oh, it's somebody else?
And
Okay.
then Beth. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate the simplicity of attending events online and not having to rush to get out of the house. And so it'll be a different kind of rhythm when we return to going places. I can't say how much these, whether it's the service on Zoom or it's coffee house or some other meeting, but particularly the service and coffee house have meant a great deal to me. It's been a place that allows me creative expression, as well as admire and appreciate that of others and savor it. And I think last night in particular was a very joyful coffee house. It just really felt special.
Hey, Beth, and then we have a chat from Melissa.
Yes, in this weird and crazy year, it's been particularly uncertain and wild for me, and the support from people in this community has made such a difference. And you all know who you are, who helped me in one way or another. And having so many different ways of staying connected that we've dreamed up, it's made this world possible, this year possible for me, joyful for me.
Thank you, Beth.
And Melissa writes, I appreciate being able to participate in the lunches and other get-togethers without having to dare out on the icy roads and sidewalks.
Thank you all. I hope you might continue during our breakout rooms after the service.